Hey there, gals and guys, Vetemor here, and I probably need a shave sometime soon, but before that comes, we're about to dig into episode 2 of the vetcast. Now, in this episode, we actually cover a lot of ground. We talk about several things that I've not even spoken about in videos yet. Just a general, nice, deep chat. Let's welcome on the man, the myth, the legend. It's Deraji. How's it going, bro?
Doing well. Thanks, Vetemor. Really appreciate you having me on the show here.
It's a pleasure to have you, bro. Start off by just telling us your story. How did you find Illuvium? How did you find crypto?
Yeah, I'm definitely a newer person to crypto. Been in Illuvium for a while. So I discovered it back in May, started researching it. But honestly, I'm brand new to crypto this year. So it's one of those things, 2021 rolled around. I'm more of a traditional investor. Even still, probably 85+% of my portfolio is low-cost index funds. And so I'm a Warren Buffett guy. That's my mentality. So this is me being super risky. And I just had the position of I also follow Mark Cuban. And so he started tweeting some things. I'm like, there might be something to this crypto thing. So let me get a little bit deeper. Let me start to understand it. And so folks that read my blog or see my videos, I nerd up everything that I do. And so it went deep into research. And the more that I got in, the more excited I was. There actually is a use case here. It's not just this magic internet money crypto thing that is a complete scam for everybody. Like Ethereum, Chainlink, Solana, there's a use case here. This is cool. I've got to get in. And then I started seeing Axie rise up. I'm like, I get this. And so my Warren Buffett adage is invest in what you understand. I started to understand the pipes of Chainlink, Ethereum, blockchain. And I'm like, I'm a longtime gamer. I've spent decades of my life on Blizzard games. I still have my original 8-bit Nintendo, and just thought about it of okay, here's a use case for NFTs of how much money I sank into a decade of World of Warcraft. And now that I've walked away from it, it's I got nothing to show for it. How awesome would it be, even if I got 80% of that back in selling a character, selling items? And so that made sense to me. I didn't end up getting into Axie, the barrier to entry. I didn't want to drop $3,000 on a team and not knowing if the game sucks or not. But then I found this thing called Illuvium. I'm oh, cool, it's not out yet. It's going to be out in a couple months. Let me start to investigate it. And the more I got into the tokenomics, I love that the team actually signed their names to it. And I love now that Von Neumann's out as Grant. And so just the transparency they had and the super well thought out tokenomics. And then I got into well, I'm doing all this research. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people that understand it. I've been writing various blogs over the years. And there's a spot here where my creative outlet might actually help some other people. And so let me just publish what I'm learning, building some spreadsheets that I was doing to try to get into the space. And the more that I learned, the more I was excited about it, because it's the one play to earn game that actually makes sense to me, that I think is taking the right approach of let's put out something good and let's not just race to market with something that we can make a couple bucks on. So that's kind of how I found it. I know you're going to ask where am I investing in it? So I started buying the token in July. I first got into the ILV pool because I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never done liquidity pools at that point. So I needed to do some more research and learning on that. And after I had my first experience there, I'm okay, I've got the rest of this, started to figure it out, locked up for 12 months in SLP, continued to learn, got more excited, locked up again for 12 months in SLP. And so total, I think I'm in 3 or 4 times at this point, all 12 months, all SLP. And at this point, it's okay, I'm probably good at this point. And I'll be anti your previous guest that I just saw of diversification's the enemy. So I'm the anti ILV bull on this. And I'm staying diversified. I've got the right amount of money in this. If it's awesome, great. If not, oh well.
So if I was to ask, what is the actual percentage of your portfolio that is staked in Illuvium, essentially?
So at this point, it's probably 5-ish% of my total net worth. The funny thing was, like, when I started this crypto journey this year, I was sitting next to my wife and like, hey, I kind of understand it. I started explaining it to her. She's like, okay, you can play around a little bit. And it's like, well, how much am I allowed to spend? Like, can I do 5% of our net worth? And she's like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. She had no idea what our net worth was. And I gave her an actual dollar amount later. She's like, what the crap? You put that much money into crypto at this point? Like, you approved it. It was fine. But it's funny, the more I've explained Illuvium to her, she's like, okay, I'm on board for this. So I've got permission. Total crypto exposure, like I said, I'm in about 5% net worth with invested. Because the crazy bull run recently, it's up to about 13%. And so I'm still in, but I'm starting to look at, like, what is the rebalancing? Where do I want to actually be longer term?
So longer term, you're probably looking at going like 50% or 90%, something like that.
So I don't think the boss, who's the wife, will approve that amount. I have screwed around a little bit. So most of it is locked away in like US tax sheltered accounts. And so I just don't have access to it aside from doing something like the grayscale trusts, which I've done a little bit on. But I'm like, if I don't touch 401k, I don't touch the retirement stuff. And this is just the play money side. I'm cool with it ramping up, but I probably need to watch how much I totally put in. I don't see it ever going past 25% for us.
No, that's fair enough. Unless, obviously, like, if it is 10% now, but without you putting anything extra in, if it goes just absolutely mad, it might end up being 50% of your net worth.
Well, like I said, I'm 12 months in the SLP. My strategy is claim all ILV. So I can't touch anything until at least next July. And so we'll see in 9 months, where's Illuvium at? I can't do anything about it. I can't sell it. So we'll see where that ends up in about a year.
Well, I'm thoroughly excited with the whole situation. I like that you didn't actually end up dipping your toe into Axie. I did. I lost about £2,000, but because I got in, started playing, and I think I actually got in when the price was actually at the peak. So a month later, the prices of Axies just started dropping severely. So shit happens, but I learned so much from that, which sort of was the education I needed to get into this. I definitely also have to say, like, big thank you to you for all the support you gave me with just all the information you have and that you've created on Illuvium, and just like direct support on my videos, especially early on, because there's just so much to know about Illuvium.
And I'll say that's one of the things that makes me the most jealous is you and some of the other guys that we talk to on a regular basis. Like, you're 23-ish, right?
Yeah, no, I'm 23. It's my 24th birthday in about 2 weeks.
Nice. Yeah, so you're 23, I'm 40. And so it's just like epically different in just life situation. And the fact that you said you had that experience with Axie, and it meant you were smart with it. Like, you didn't spend money you couldn't afford to lose, and you treated it as a learning experience and pivot from that. And you've still got so much time, and you're in, like, understanding this stuff at the perfect time to really potentially make life-changing money. For me, I'm on the other end of things that I've got a good job that I'm definitely not going to quit. So this is just the side hustle, something that's a creative outlet for me. And I have a path to the retirement that I want. And so I just don't screw that up. And now it's like, how much can I spend to, like, play around with it? And for me, it's like, I'm not going to go crazy rich. I'm not looking for, like, total degen crypto stuff, 1000x. And, like, that's not going to change my life considerably. Like, my wife and I are pretty simple people. We don't have kids. And so I get to play around with some things like this. But it's like, I just want my house on the beach, open up a beach bar, write a little bit, teach a little bit, and just be the old guy sitting in the corner with my margarita. Like, that's my plan. And I've got a path to get there. Illuvium and crypto just might be getting me there a year or two earlier.
Yeah, my path is definitely trying to make enough money that I can sit at Deraji's bar drinking a beer and watching an esports tournament on the, the live screen TV in the bar.
You have a lifetime tab that's just open on me.
Oh man, don't give me that. I'm gonna stay there too long. But I think it is very, very sensible that you're not going all in on Illuvium, especially like considering your situation and everything. I don't think going all in is for everyone. I personally obviously have gone all in, but my sort of thinking is the place where I was in like a year ago, if I actually right now like lost everything I have in crypto, I wouldn't actually be in a different place than I was in a year ago. So I'd still have my loving wife and I'd still have a place to live and I'd still be able to live with myself and also live without regret because I know I've taken the opportunities I took. I did the best that I could, but I definitely don't think that is a route for everyone because there's a lot of people, especially if you've already set up a life for yourself and you're not like just starting out, and you can kind of take the risk. And if it doesn't work out, you can pick yourself back up. Whereas if you lost everything right now, you'd just be devastated.
I'd be screwed, man.
It's such a deep level. You just like, I don't want to say like you get suicidal.
That's my next step.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going Squid Game.
I mean, that might be the only way out. Let's hope it exists.
I really respect and appreciate that that's your mantra and like you've seen it, so like this is where I would be back to, and you still have plenty of time to do it. And something that's meaningful to me in like all aspects of life, I ask my questions like, what's the impact if I'm wrong? And it's like, it's always great to be optimistic about things, but if it only makes sense to do, if it works and it's right, and it's an irreversible choice, like maybe sometimes it's worth doing that the reward is big enough, but just a lot of things like, what's the impact if I'm wrong?
I mean, I think that's a sensible approach. And in the crypto space, we've just got a lot of hype and Fomo hype, as I like to call it. And that's not always the right thing for everyone. And within a hype verse, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money and a few people are going to get lucky. And that's just the way it goes. But I don't think everyone should be just attacking this like a jumping ape, jumping into a pool.
And I see that a ton hanging out in like the staking channel and trying to help people out there, that you see people like ILV Bull that jumped in with hundreds of thousands of dollars, bots, almost 2,000 ILV. But folks need to understand, like, while those people are vocal and they talk about it, like it's a very different situation and mentality that got them there. And like, I've been digging into, like, I think there's like 13,000 token holders at this point, like about that many is staked. And like the middle percentile, like half the people have fewer tokens staked than this. And the ILV pool is 4. Like that's where the middle is. And that's crazy to me that we talk to people that are really into this all the time and some bigger whales, and a lot of the mods got in super early. And so they have a ton. But like, if you're just getting in now, just don't be envious. Don't be like crazy. That's like, oh my God, I only can afford 1 or 2. Should I even do this? I'm so far behind. Like, you're really not. Like, we are still early. If you're confident in the space, get into it and don't look at these people that are the true whales, the top 1%, the top 5%, and be like, oh, that's where the average is. It's not.
I mean, the game isn't even out yet. So it's super early days. Yeah. I was actually thinking the other day, if somebody is getting in right now and they want to actually play the game, one thing they could do, because they might not want to even stake, they might not even want to buy ILV, but they just want to play the game. But they're also like, I'm here and it's like 4 months, 5 months before the game even launches. How do I actually take advantage of the fact that I'm here early, right? And what I was literally thinking is, if you just dollar cost average buying SILV right now, you could be just saving up SILV. And once the game comes out, just use all of that SILV which the value of SLV is equivalent to the value of ILV within the game and within a land sale. But then right now it's being sold at a lot less. And if the price of ILV also goes up, you could be looking at like a 4, 5, 10x. I mean, you know, it could not go that high, but you're basically dollar cost averaging in to have game money that can then just so you can just play and have more fun. What do you think about that?
I agree and disagree. So I totally agree. I think for folks that do want to play, I know you and I have talked, like, as soon as this comes out, it's going to look awesome. I have bought my SILV, and so I've pre-funded what I want to play with. And first 2 weeks, I'm just taking vacation. I'm going to sit here, be gathering alluvials, and I've already got that paid for, which is awesome. I am losing a little bit of money in like the opportunity cost, but like you said, there is a chance for appreciation. I do think the price of SILV as we get to the land auction is going to shoot up. So I'd be careful when you do that. But I also think after the first auction, it's going to crash again. So it's going to come way back down because then there's not a use case till the second auction or potentially the game starting. The big watch out if you don't have enough to get in or you just want to do the play side is right now the way to get SILV is through Uniswap transactions. And, you know, this week has just been insane for gas fees. And so I would try to figure out how much money do I want to set aside as my play budget and try to do that purchase once when it makes sense and then stop looking at it. Be like, I'm just going to read the news. I'm just going to be excited about this and don't stress out of the day-to-day up and downs of SILV or ILV because like, okay, I care about February or March next year when this is actually going to come out. And assuming the game comes out on that timeline, we could be at a huge price point before then, doubling your money. But you're basically pre-funding your game. So just watch out for the transaction fees. The only thing that I would have against DCAing in on SILV.
Yeah, definitely check if the transaction fees are worth the amount that you're putting in. And maybe saving up some money before buying it. And also maybe waiting until after the land sale gets done for potentially lower SLV price. Although right now it still hasn't even ramped up towards the ILV price, like we've been expecting.
That's still floating even under half today, I think.
Yeah, it's still under half. It was at like 55 at one point, and it has gone back down. I'm almost thinking that until land sale actually gets announced, this is gonna just sort of stay as it is, and then once it gets announced, probably ramps up.
I think the other thing I would just say, if you're looking to get in and play, like educate yourself on blockchain, like learn how to use MetaMask, learn what we're talking about when we say transaction gas fees, like that will eat you up if you're a small investor, don't have that much money. Because like I hate seeing people jump in. It's like gas is at 500. I just spent $150 to buy $20 worth of SILV. Like, no, please don't do that.
Definitely do not do that. But on that subject of sort of around the land sale, do you personally plan to buy land?
So I have my hypotheses on this. So I'm definitely going to watch it. As we're seeing SILV claims really jump up, I'm concerned that there's a psychology behind it, that two things are going to happen. One, the people that are buying SILV cheap are going to say like, hey, I bought $2,000 worth of SILV at the land sale. It's worth 10 grand. And so I can go 10 grand on a piece of land, but it's only going to feel like 2 grand. And there's this mentality. And then for others that are just straight claiming it, it's free money. Like I didn't do anything. Now I've got this SILV. And so those are the people that are going to be most aware of the first land sale. And they're in a different mindset. And so the dollar number isn't the real psychology number of what they're spending. And so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is reasonable, or maybe I go crazy myself the week that it comes out. I'm like, yes, I'm FOMOing in tier 3 and we'll see. But the watch out there is like, I kind of have some numbers in mind of what I'm willing to go on land. And if what I'm thinking holds true on the price of SILV, I may buy a piece of land or not, and just sell out my SLV when it's high and close to the price of ILV, put that into ETH, wait for the price to crash after the land sale, come back in. And worst case, I'm just stuck with a bunch of ETH. And so I don't think that's the worst trade-off in the world.
So you're considering selling your SLV for ETH?
Yeah, so just swap out at the moment, because I do think like I'll potentially buy back in. But what I'm thinking is price goes up at land sale. Afterwards, then we have a gap of at least a month probably before we have another use case, and the demand's going to fall off. And so there's going to be more claiming, more people potentially doing the SILV to SLP strategy, which means more SILV comes into the system, pushes price down. And so that might be another buy-in point for me. So rather than just wait for land sale, hold the rest of it to game launch, there might be a way to play a little bit of the price movement here, because I think it's going to be fairly predictable. I've been wrong before.
I have actually considered that one way to de-risk, like obviously one way to de-risk the buying of land is to buy SILV, but another way to like further de-risk it is once you've bought the SILV, buy almost double the SILV you actually want to spend on land, and then as it gets closer to land sale, sell half of your SILV at a profit as SLV price approaches ILV price, and then only spending like half of it on the land. But the other thing you mentioned is the SILV into SLP thing. This is actually something I'm yet to make a video on this channel. So would you like to just talk the audience through what actually is that?
Yeah, this is something that we've seen, like looking at the on-chain data and seeing just a ramp up in the folks that are switching to claiming SILV rather than ILV. So for the first solid couple months, like nobody claimed SILV. And what we've seen some whales do is go in, they collect a bunch of rewards that are pending, they claim it as SILV, and a couple of them went in and started liquidity pools that are pairing the SILV token and the ETH token. And so they're getting liquidity. Utilization of that pool is high, so they're getting a lot of transaction fees from it. And so it's been a decent proposition to begin with. I think they run the risk of some impermanent loss because there's potential for SILV to like 4x relative to the price of ETH. But that said, they've been making a ton on the transaction fees, but that gave them liquidity pools where they could do that again, claim more SILV, swap it for ETH, and then take that ETH and put it back into the SLP, because right now it's about 10x the rewards that you get from SLP relative to just claiming ILV. I did some math on this on the side. I've shared a couple times, like I built a calculator on it. I think it's okay, but it's not as good as the other calculators that Layla Hell and I have made, because there's just so much more variability in gas fees. It just eats you up, especially at smaller investments of SLP, and the variability of the price on SILV is all over the place, more so even than the core token. And so it depends, like you've got to sell high on the SILV, you've got to watch for low gas fees, and the percent that you can spend on gas before it doesn't make sense for the rewards you get is pretty high. And so that's why it absolutely makes sense for whales for the past month. I think the more people that do it, it becomes less valuable. But I'm, again, worried about this behavior. If people see whales do it and they immediately go and claim one ILV, spend more than half of that in the transaction fees, and end up with just a fraction of an SLP to put back in. And that pays, you're never going to make it back versus just claim it and let the RevDiz come in, let the rewards add up from the ILV core pool.
So the moral of the story is, as much as like you might think like copying the behavior of whales is going to turn you into a whale, it's not, because the type of calculations that are happening don't assume that you've got like a much smaller stack. And if you are a whale and you are doing this, there's a lot to consider. But what's essentially the gist of it is that instead of claiming ILV and your ILV going directly into the ILV pool, which is earning a lot less of an APY percentage, about 10 times less than the SLP pool, they're claiming SILV, which is immediately unlocked. Even though they can only sell it for half of the price, they sell it for Ethereum and then use that Ethereum to buy half ILV and then get more SLP into the SLP pool. And even though it's only half the actual value of the ILV, they would claim, because they're putting it in the SLP pool, in the long run, it will actually end up that they have even more ILV than claiming ILV from their rewards, which is insane.
Yeah, and I did a blog article on it where I kind of walked through, here's like the 5 things to think about when you're doing this. And I did the assessment myself. Like I think I looked that like I'm fairly invested in this, but I'm not a whale by any means. And it didn't make sense to me. And the reasons were, first, transaction fees, I just hate them. 2, I'm in the US and my goals in crypto is to get rich and not go to jail. So I'm actually planning to pay taxes on this stuff. And so if I claim the SILV immediately, that's very different than letting the ILV vest in how my tax strategy is. And so not only am I losing half the value immediately because I'm selling it for half, now I also have to pay taxes on that. And so now I'm losing another 40% of that. And so rather than getting a quarter of it, I'm getting an eighth. And it's like, ooh, it really starts to hurt on this. And so math didn't make sense to me. Being partially lazy, I'm like, nope, I'm just claiming ILV. If I want SILV, I'll just buy it.
I also want to really say a big thank you to you and some of the other people we chat to, because I actually probably wouldn't have even thought about tax at all. And it's just such a like sensible thing to do, especially if you've put like tens of thousands of dollars in, to actually consider the tax implications. I still need to actually talk to a United Kingdom tax accountant. But I have spoken to my accountant a bit. He literally said, like, you need to speak to a crypto accountant. It's kind of complicated. It's kind of complicated. He gave me like the brief gist. But like, if you are personally invested, especially heavily, and we're talking like thousands here, if you got like $100, $200, like it's almost not even a tax thing. I'm not like, that's not financial advice, but you know, but if you've got a huge amount in, even like that, just like a few thousand, especially what it might end up being worth, definitely consider speaking to an accountant at some point. Just pay them like $100, $200, $300 or whatever they charge, just to have a conversation, just to really wrap your head around really what it means to you and the tax implications on you personally, because that can actually influence your decisions in a way where you're making actually better decisions for your own future and your own investments. To take it next, you said that you're actually you are planning to play the main game. I was actually curious, what is your personal sort of plan when it comes to the main game? Do you have like a strategy?
I think it partially depends on if I get land, because obviously there's an interaction that we still haven't seen final proposals yet. But like, do I use the resources there? Do I sell them? I think that's going to be the fun piece for me, being the nerd in this, of starting to do the math of what's the optimal strategy of resource generation there. We don't really know, aside from like how the alluvials work, infusing them. Like so much of the main game is going to be dictated by the players. So we'll see when we get out like the fusion cost, the travel cost, like all of that is kind of speculated at this point. And so like that to me is when we think about Axie, like what is the cost of breeding? Like, okay, for selling an alluvial to make sense, it's got to at least exceed X, which is your cost of acquisition. We don't know that yet. And I think like you and I have talked some different strategies on this of going out, like gather a bunch, like, are we fusing them? There's definitely going to be whales that are going to want to jump in and be like, I don't want to play, but I'll just pay the time to buy a badass team to go battle Kieran and wager some ETH on that. And so that said, there's going to be some big money there, I think, early. I love the strategy of thinking about like, what do we keep? Like, we know there's going to be multiple seasons of things. And as the bonding curve gets harder and harder, does that drive the price further up? And so like, that's where obviously a lot of my energy has been in like figuring out the staking, figuring out the optimal claim strategy, dealing with transaction costs. That hopefully shifts over time as we get into the game and start looking at the number of economic aspects of what is an optimal play strategy for money. But the big thing for me is they're saying, like, we want to target mainstream gamers. Gamers don't care about that. Like, I've spent thousands of dollars in my life that I'm never getting back on games because it was fun, because it was something I wanted to do. And that's the piece for me. Like, I want to run around the world, do something that I enjoy. And like, I was the kind of nerd that was doing World of Warcraft, like herbalism, mining, archaeology, like the most boring aspects of the game, and then playing the auction house with it, because that was something like I ended up funding most of my play because I made so much money on the auction house. Now, rather than that being fake money, this could be real money. And I'm probably a bad investor in this regard of like, I want to share it. I love teaching people. Like, 500 other people doing my same strategy is not going to change how much I'm actually making, because I'm not doing this for a living. I'm not doing this for huge money. So I'd rather people be smart about it and want to think about it, and then debate me when I'm wrong. Like, no, you're missing this, because that's fun to me.
No, I like that. I like that. So you plan to be almost like a resource gatherer, as well as obviously catching alluvials and stuff. I like that. I like that. One of the strategies I was considering is, obviously you can fuse alluvials, but then as we're fusing them, if everyone just gets alluvials and fuses them as soon as they can, like in a year or 2 years, when these original alluvials don't even, like, they're not out yet anymore, they're rare. Some of the like like the lower stages of each alluvial, they might be almost extinct just because they've been burned for fusing. So I was almost thinking, I'm never going to fuse anything unless I have at least 4 of them, because it takes 3 to fuse, and then I get at least 1 left of that original lower stage, and do that with each stage to like continue having something left over, which I think is a good strategy. The other thing I plan to do is I probably will be even claiming some SLV. I'll probably be dollar cost averaging, buying some until then, but I actually don't want to sell any alluvials for at least like 6 months to a year. So I just want to put money in and just go out catching them. I wouldn't be buying them from the market. I'd just be catching them. Unless someone put like a holographic one on for like really cheap, then I'd be very tempted.
Market inefficiencies. That's what I'm all about.
I think a few people have actually said, like, the moment any holographics get on, no matter the price, like, we're buying them. There's some rich people out there. There's going to be some insane price action. It's going to be hype. And then once I've just made a huge collection and I'm only collecting, stockpiling, not selling anything, in a year when these are actually no longer in production, not only are they hard to catch, you can't even catch them anymore because they're out of stock, essentially. Then they'll get rarer and rarer. And I was considering, over the course of like a year after launch, up to like 3 years, I'd probably end up selling gradually like half of all the alluvials I have. But then I'd keep the other half for like even longer term, because it's probably a lot that I would just never sell out of just sentimental value, especially if we make insane money out of this. It's like, I want to hold on to some of these bad boys.
You know, you're keeping your first one ever.
Yeah.
Like your first Atlas you find, like, nope, sentimental. That's my baby right there.
It's going to be tempting to never fuse an Atlas, to be fair. Like, because they might end up being a lot of people will probably end up keeping them, but
unless we get insane money, you know, there's always a number that somebody's gonna.
There is always a number. Like, when someone wants to give you $1 billion for an Atlas, you're giving away the Atlas.
Like, somebody's sitting there like one ram fee away from a ram fire, and you have the last ram fee. It's like, imagine what that person is going to pay you for that.
I think we're not the only people thinking about this, though. So
absolutely not.
Especially
now that you're showing this on YouTube.
I've also spoken to a few people that are in deep, and this isn't like new information, but I'm glad to share as much as I can with everyone, because, like, as much as this, I might get like some gentle edge never sharing anything. It's just not fun, and it's just really fun to share everything with the community, because like the support has been insane. like, thank you to the whole community, to be honest. It's just been very cool. I'm excited
I'll
to
echo
see
that
what
as
they
well.
do.
Like I've been hanging out in Discord for months now, and mostly in the staking channel, helping people. And like the mods do an amazing job there. And the number of times that they answer the same freaking question over and over again versus somebody scrolling up like 2 screens that this has just been asked. So incredibly patient, incredibly helpful. And as we look at other play to earn games, and I've hung out in their Discords, like it's different. And that's a piece that makes me feel better about what we're doing here. And obviously we're passionate about the project doing this stuff, but it really is a lot of the community as well as the team that's making this special so far.
I also want to say, like, guys, the mods don't even get paid. They're doing this for free, man. They're just so good. You go in some other Discords and they're just like, read the pins, like go to the FAQ. FAQ, sorry. Yeah. No, the community is insane. It's just a different vibe. And I think it was Jiho the other day. He like tweeted, the community makes everything. Jiho's like one of the founders of Axie Infinity. And I actually retweeted like, Jiho's foreshadowing the rise of Illuvium, you know? Okay. So I'm going to ask you a few questions now that are going to be like almost fun questions.
Okay.
But describe Illuvium in one word.
Potential.
I like that. I like that. What is your favorite Illuvial?
I got to go Atlas so far. I know it's the Homer choice on this, but I'm still staying Atlas. He's been my icon for the ILV-Fi, so
yeah. I mean, we also haven't seen most of them yet, so we're all gonna get new favorites once it comes out. But Atlas, how can you just ignore Atlas? You know, what is your favorite chat in the Illuvial, like the Illuvium Discord?
Oh, you know I live in staking.
I wrote this beforehand, but that's a good point. Okay, without causing any drama, but probably will. Out of the 3 brothers, who is your favorite founder and why?
Oh, you know, I'm an Aaron guy as well. Just like the deeper thought that he puts into it. Absolutely love his interviews and just love seeing kind of the analytics and the well thought out gameplay on it. And like the tokenomics is a key piece that drew me to it. A lot of how we're thinking about the fusion of the alluvials and just him and what he shares. Like that's what's given me a lot of confidence in the structure of the game.
Nice. To be fair, I think Aaron is actually my favorite as well. I love Aaron interviews because they're somehow more intimate. Like Kieran interviews are a great place to like start and to learn about everything. But if you're trying to get in deep, you want to get some Aaron interview going on because it's juicy.
I will say, I think Aaron has the most pressure of the 3 of them too, because if you look at kind of the broader roles of what they've done for the DAO, Kieran is obviously the hype man, the marketing guy, and fully diluted market cap is now $10 billion and we don't have a product yet. And so he has nailed it. Von Neumann, Grant, obviously the art is amazing. I've absolutely loved the trailer and the scenes that we've seen on the overworld in particular. And so him and his team have nailed it from what this thing looks like. And now we just need to know, how's the game? Like, especially if we're going to appeal this to broader, like traditional gamers that don't necessarily care about the crypto side, it's got to be fun. And that's on Aaron and his team.
It's a big pressure because that is the one thing that's going to make it or break it, really. Even if it is a beautiful game, which we clearly see that it is, it needs to be fun though. The mechanics themselves need to be engaging and keep people coming back for more. But I really think based on everything they're saying, they're really thinking about all the right things they need to be thinking about. They also are doing a closed beta first. They're not just like pushing this out, ramming it down our throats. They're doing a closed beta at first with literally just like TFT players and players that play similar games. in like strategically speaking, so that those players can sort of analyze the actual arena battles and actually be like, well, like this needs to be changed, or this is a bit weird. So they're fine tuning in a way that's just really intelligent. And I've even heard him speak about when you go out into like a paid like area to, you know, explore and stuff. If you're the kind of person that just likes to crash in, go into everything without investigating, just grab the first thing you get as much as you can in your hands, bag it up, or you're the kind of person that wants to go around and you just want to just like, you know, because you can actually spend more energy before you take something to actually check what actually is this thing. What is its value going to be? Is this actually worth taking? But you end up spending energy doing that. But they've actually put in so much work into making it so that the algorithm is such, if you go crashing in, and as he says, like go full Kieran mode on it, and you just take everything you can get your hands on, or you do it Aaron mode and you do it sneakily and you just scan everything and you only take the best, most premium things, what's going to end up happening is you come back and on average, you will actually get the same value from both of those strategies, which means not only strategically speaking, does it not matter what you do, but what that means is enjoyability wise, you can play the way that makes you enjoy the game more. And you like, it doesn't benefit or negate you, because if there's a specific strategy that just that's the one way to do it, then suddenly you're playing in a way that isn't actually enjoyable necessarily to you, but it's going to make you more money. And then suddenly we're in Axie land. And I did get into Axie. I did lose some money on it. I also actually got a 14-year-old to play the game for me. I don't know how legal that is, but let's ignore that. He's a friend of mine. I didn't, you know, so I actually got him to play for me. He played for about a week, but his response was, I would never, ever, ever play this game if it wasn't for money. And he's a gamer. He plays loads of different games, a variety of different genres, but he was just like, this is just like boring, you know? I played it myself. My wife played it. It's the same feedback all over. If there was no money involved, this would be a flash game, played occasionally. Yeah, it just doesn't keep you coming back for more. And not to hate on Axie completely, because they've done like good work, but to some extent, based on the amount of money they made, I do think they should have reinvested a lot more into building up further. What do you think about that?
I'll touch real quick on, like, I think you're right. Like, that's the bar for Illuvium. And so going back to my question, like, what if I'm wrong? Like, what's worst case scenario? It's like, there is almost no way with the beauty that they've put into this, the like thought of everything that we're hearing from Aaron, like this will be better than Axie, and Axie is huge right now. And so I have no doubt in my mind, based on what we see at the moment, Illuvium will be the best play to earn game. But that's not their goal. Their goal is to pull in mainstream. And so it won't be enough to be better than Axie. Like, now you're competing with stuff that people will spend hours and thousands of dollars on with no hope of return on it. That's your competition to pull those eyes, that playtime, and those billions of dollars in. And so that's going to be the fun thing. But if the worst case is this is better than Axie, that's still huge for us. And the other thing tied to like your experience of, like, I bought at the top, like Axie almost has to grow to be successful based on their economic model. Illuvium can be stable and be very profitable, fun to play, hopefully, but like it makes sense even with a smaller player base that's steady. So that, to me, again, what's the worst that can happen? I still feel good about it.
No, I definitely agree. I think Kieran actually shouted the, like, sort of on Twitter, he was like, it's a Ponzi scheme or whatever. Any economy, obviously, that is starting out is technically a Ponzi scheme. And even Illuvium, like the moment it starts, the economy within the game, it's kind of Ponzi-like. And like, but if there's enough demand and people are actually playing the game and there is adoption, it's no longer a Ponzi economy. It actually establishes itself. Axie are currently doing, or at least say they're doing things they're not transparent, so nobody knows what they're actually doing. But if they do the right moves and they do some good things, they could end up really, improving and establishing something that actually can last. But it's also possible that in 2 years, like, there'll be just one of those things that are in the history books as like they did it first. AOL was nice, or like Hotmail or whatever. I think people still use Hotmail as an email address, but yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you think we've missed?
I think we're doing pretty good.
I think we've covered a good bit of ground. Yeah. So where can people find you, Deraji? Any link that you say right now, I will link it in the description of this video as well.
Now, my focus, like I said, I still have my day job and I'm never quitting that. And so it's work-life balance. And this is a creative outlet for me. And so I did a lot on YouTube a little bit ago. I still have some other things that I'm planning to shoot. But as you know, those just take a lot more time. And so the YouTube channel is kind of a secondary piece. And so really focusing on the blog, which is on publishox.com/ILVFi. And you can always hit me up on Discord. I haven't been as active because, again, trying to work and keep the fiat faucet still going. But I'm always lurking. Feel free to hit me up. And my mantra is like, if somebody asks for help, you help them. And so I really do want to share this knowledge and help people out. So hit me up. Happy to help anybody.
I will link your Discord and your blog as well as your YouTube channel in the description of this video. So if you guys want to check that out, definitely head over there. Deraji is just awesome and an absolute legend. What can I say?
No, Vetemor is my hero. I want to be you when I grow up, and I'm super happy with what you're doing with this channel. And so always happy to be supportive in the background or forefront. So this was super fun. We definitely need to chat this as we see more about the land sale, as we actually get into play. We'll keep this going.
There's more to come, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Vetemor, you're the future, and I'll see you there.